Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast series, Coach's Corner, where I, Coach Furtado, share my wisdom and what I've been learning about throughout the week with you all in regards to how we can coach, teach, and parent better. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. And so, the topic of the conversation today is around relatability, and I think this is a really important one for us coaches. And I'm just going to stick with coaches because that's mainly what I know, but it's applicable to teachers and even to parents. And when we want to teach lessons, I had a conversation, and next week's podcast is going to be amazing. This week's was another amazing one, so we just get so many good guests. So giving a little teaser there, you have to stay tuned to our guest. This is where I learned so much wonderful stuff. So I have this physics teacher on, right? And, you all know, maybe you're a science nerd, maybe you're not. But for me, like, high school physics was cool, right? I had a cool teacher, but it wasn't, like, super engaging or nothing. And in college, it sucked. I dropped after 2 weeks. It was boring. It was hard. I didn't want to do it. So I have this physics teacher come on, and he's actually a buddy of mine. So it's a very, very good conversation. But with that being said, physics is traditionally taught from a textbook, right? Like taught from a textbook, super to a T. You got your labs, right? And it's like, let's face it, it's boring. And then you get this new teacher coming in, and he actually was hired for the purpose from the district to the physics program had kind of been taking a dive, and he was hired to kind of like innovate it, like and bring some youth to it, because he was just coming out of his master's, getting his teaching, credentials, right? And so they're like, we need you. Right, so he comes in and he starts teaching lessons on, Steph Curry, his shot angle, right? Because physics, there's a lot of angles. He has ballerinas in his class, so or they do ballet. Maybe I don't need to call them ballerinas, but talking about inertia, right? So inertia is when they spin around. So he's running his class. Right, the kids see it as, oh, we're having fun in this class. We're learning about Steph Curry. Oh, we're doing ballet in class. But in reality, they are learning, and they're learning about physics, and it's fun because it's relatable. So, he actually ended up getting a lot of pushback on that, and I won't dive super into that. But relatability is so incredibly important, and I'm going to kind of share 3 thoughts and ideas around relatability, 3 C's. But before that, I want to share a personal example of relatability that I, kind of utilize in my working world. So for those of you, most of you know that I am a basketball coach, and the basketball school I have, they serve 4 and 5-year-olds. It's very, very young to start playing sports. So at that age, what do you care about? You do not care about Michael Jordan. You do not care about 30 points per game. You do not care about any of that. What do you care about? It's literally, sometimes I don't even know. You know what they care about? Animals. So every time we do a drill, I have them doing animal sounds. We're doing a bear crawl. Grr, grr, I'm a bear, Or, sometimes I'll have them compete. I'll have them pick fruits. The other day, one team was the bananas, one team was the watermelons, and they loved it. But that was relatable. That's relatable to them, right? Like when I'm saying like jump shot, it's like it's a foreign language to them. You have to be able to kind of communicate with them, right? When I'm teaching them some shooting form and how to use their legs, what do they know? They know what a rocket ship is. Most of them probably know what a rocket ship goes up. It needs a lot of power. So that's how I teach. I relate something that they know about to them. And for that works for 6 to 7-year-olds, 6 to 9-year-olds, right? Kids want to be goofy. They want to be funny. But at the end of the day, I have to be relatable to the group that I am teaching or coaching. So let's dive into the 3 C's. And the number 1 is commonality, right? So I feel like with commonalities, you have to find the common interest within your group, right? And it's even strong. It's going to be better to find commonalities outside of basketball, outside of the physics classroom, because when you find commonalities, you can find those kind of connections with your peers, and it's kind of like that team bonding, right, so to speak. And a way that you can facilitate this is like the guest that I have on next Wednesday, he talked about something he's called a community circle, where he would ask, certain questions that would start, kind of softball questions, easy questions to answer, and kind of like, go from surface level to a deeper level and a deeper level to, try and find those common connections to be like, oh, I didn't know that you were going through that challenge. Oh, I didn't know that, you like this. I actually like this too. And if you can bring people to find commonalities, you can find how you can connect your lesson, your application too, like Andy did. I'll talk a little bit more about connection here in a few, but like Andy is the guest that's coming on next week. He, found out that, hey, this group of 3 to 4 girls, they do ballet on the weekends, so let's teach them inertia, right? Like that comes from finding those commonalities, which leads into my next point of curiosity. There's no way you can find those commonalities if you're not curious about your players, your athletes. And he was talking about a lot about always asking how they're doing, and I try and do this as well. Not like how are you doing, right? Like the BS how are you doing that we all ask and we don't really mean, right? It's the actual like how are you actually doing. And he said 90% of the time they just say fine, right? But there is that one time where maybe they're going through a challenge, and that's an opportunity for you to connect with them, right? And even just being curious about what their life, what are you interested in outside of basketball, outside of sports, outside of physics, outside of school, right? Like we all have interests. And I think a big one that I actually see one of our coaches at Royal do is he's been relating a lot of things to video games, and I think that's great, right? Like let's use our thumbs, your video game thumbs. That's great. That relates to the kids. But you can't know it relates to the kids if you're not curious. Hey, do you play video games? Like a lot of times the answer is yes, especially for this generation. I played video games when I was a kid, right? So being super curious is what kind of drives that ability to find those commonalities. And then the last one that I've probably said the word already 3 to 5 times is connect. Connect. You have to make those connections for your students, for your athletes, for the kids, between ballet and physics, between Steph Curry and physics, and also, thinking about in a game for us coaches, right? You have to connect, okay, why are we going to use a screen and why are you going to roll this way, right? If you have to connect it to this, for this generation to truly learn, you have to connect the why to why you're doing a skill or a lesson or working on a drill or a lesson, and apply it to how the skill is in real life or in the game. Because gone are the days where we can just like expect kids to, let's just learn, let's learn about physics just cause, right? They have too many options. They don't care. And to be honest, we didn't care back then either. So why are we doing the same things over and over and over again? We have to connect them to real life applications. We have to connect the drills, the skills, the lessons to what they care about. Like that's one of the number one things is like it can't just be what coach cares about. It has to be what they care about, and you can't get there without curiosity. So that's my thoughts on the 3 C's of how to be more relatable, but there's obviously significantly more. So I'd love for you to comment below or connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, and just let me know, like, what are other ways that we can, be more relatable with people? How can we connect better with our athletes, with our students, with our team? Because at the end of the day, that's like how we build relationships, is relatability. And one of the best ways to teach, like Andy broke down, and he'll go way deeper next Wednesday when you're on the podcast and when you listen, and make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get it, and make sure you're giving us a follow on social media. So, we have to make sure that we are being relatable and connecting with our team. So thank you again so much for making Bridging Impact your end of the week listen. Coach's Corner is one of my favorite ones where I honestly get to learn more about the topic because I'm diving in, and I love to have a conversation around it with you all. So hope you have a fantastic Labor Day weekend, and I will see you in the eyes and ears next week. All right, Coach Furtado out.